America, I'm Hugh Hewitt. John Williams is the chief economist and the president of the American Legislative Exchange Council, great sponsors of the program. He's a friend of mine as well, and he has to talk about the law with me this week. So he's the economist, I'm the lawyer, but I'm very interested, Jonathan, that ALEC is filing amicus briefs. Tell me about the case.
Well, it's really an interesting case, and it's a key case, Hugh, in terms of this whole problem that we've been seeing across the country that President Trump's trying to address. Our good friend and ALEC alumnus Jim Jordan at House Judiciary, and that, of course, is the weaponization of government. And in the case that we just filed this brief in, filed a brief to the United States Supreme Court, is dealing with a crisis pregnancy center out of the state of New Jersey that had been targeted by the New Jersey Attorney General, Mr. Platkin, and had been subpoenaed for their donor records, asking for all donors to that pregnancy resource center. And it's clearly an example of big government overreach targeting potentially a group that they don't agree with. And as when the folks at the pregnancy resource center went to get relief from the federal court system, they were denied that by the district court and by the Third Circuit, and saying that the subpoena had not been enforced, and so they didn't have the ability to get relief from federal courts. We thought that was wrong. We think that the whole idea of weaponization of government, ALEC has been the recipient, unfortunately, of that in states like Minnesota and Maine over the years have targeted ALEC unfairly. Thankfully, we've been exonerated, but not without the cost of just tons of resources, whether it's staff time or hiring lawyers to defend ourselves from this. So we have personal experience being targeted by liberal officials in blue states, and that's why we wanted to come to the defense of our friends there in New Jersey.
Well, I applaud you because this question has been asked and answered by the Supreme Court in the past, by the NAACP when segregationists wanted their donors, and the Supreme Court said, no, we're not going to put those people at risk. It's a freedom of speech issue. So good on alec.org/u. If you want to find out what ALEC is doing, make sure you go to alec.org/u. Jonathan, I want to make sure I get to the Kansas experiment because I've heard about it for years. I want you to explain what it is and why it's a myth.
Well, this has been something in my career where, I've not seen a lie get this much attention, and that is the lie around the Kansas tax experiment. And this is something that Sam Brownback, when he was governor, worked with his legislature to work to try to kill the income tax. And there's lots of issues why it went a little bit sideways. One of the big ones is something that, ALEC, that we often talk about, which is you must match tax cuts with good spending policy and make sure that you don't increase spending while you're cutting taxes. Lots of political reasons why that ended up happening in Kansas. But essentially what happened from day one, the kind of fake news economist Paul Krugman at the New York Times wrote a column about how the Kansas tax cuts were destroying the state. And then for about 10 years, Hugh, everywhere I went, if we had good ALEC members trying to cut taxes in their state, the first argument out of the gate would be, you can't cut taxes because look what it did to the state of Kansas. Well, the good news, Hugh, after over a decade now, Kansas just going through lots of issues trying to talk about this, and they ended up raising taxes as a result because of their spending policies. The good news is Senate President Ty Masterson, ALEC national chair from last year, he and his colleagues in the Kansas legislature led the effort to create a flat tax. They were part of this flat tax revolution that we've talked about. So this Kansas story that started out in a very troubled way was targeted from the left. They tried to use it to scare away every state trying to cut taxes. Now, because of bold conservative leadership from people like Senator Masterson, they've come full circle, and they're going to have a 4% flat tax, working on making it even better in the years ahead.
Good for Kansas. They got to keep up with Tennessee, Florida, Texas, and even places like Arizona, which are 2.5%, but they're getting there. Last story, the national debt. Now, it's not going to be a surprise that you and I are concerned about the national debt, but I am surprised that Congress agrees. They really don't act like it, but why does it matter, Jonathan Williams?
Well, we're at 37 trillion reasons why as of just earlier this summer. And it's a huge area where now the interest costs on the national debt obviously are becoming one of the top line items of government spending overall. And so we just launched this new ALEC state legislator letter. We're working with our friends from the financial officers through the State Financial Officers Foundation. Our good friend, the comptroller of the state of Indiana, Elise Nishala, has been a great partner of ours on this. And we're asking for Congress to basically do what the states do every single year. That is, try to live within their means, have some sort of a balanced budget discussion. And we cannot continue down this trajectory of continuing to add more and more debt. I applaud, obviously, President Trump, the DOGE effort, all those important things that we've begun to see some progress, but we have a whole lot more of work to be done, including common sense things like Medicaid reforms and work requirements in the big, beautiful bill, as we've talked about many times, Hugh.
And we've got to look at entitlement reform eventually, because we're going to be bust if we don't. Jonathan Williams from ALEC, American Legislative Exchange Council, thank you. Go to alec.org/Hugh. Get the State of the State newsletter and be smart about what's going on in our laboratory of the states, alec.org/Hugh. Come right back.